This is the Critical Conversations podcast, a KPOV special project developed to feature unique perspectives and the courage it takes to go there, challenge mundane thought, and question the norm.
Pacific Northwest Adult and Teen Challenge is a nonprofit dedicated to putting hope within reach of every person struggling with addiction through long-term residential discipleship. Often when I'm hanging out with people over the age of, say, 40 years of age or older, most of us agree that being a teenager or a young adult today would be far more difficult than it was when we were young. I remember the comedic retort, when I was your age, I was 21. Well, thank God, and I mean that literally, that there are places of refuge like Adult and Teen Challenge to provide all of the D words like discipline, determination, desire, diligence, and duty that can be integral to making a meaningful difference in someone's life in these very challenging times. Welcome to the show, Micah Tappero, Executive Director of Teen Challenge and Adult Campus in Bend, Oregon.
All right. Good morning. Good morning.
So, I think two of the things that caught my eye in preparing for today's show were the founder, David and Dawn Wilkerson's story, and the astonishing number of 78% of graduates remain clean and sober after graduation. Congratulations, Micah. That's quite an accomplishment. So,
thank you.
Tell us a little bit about Adult and Teen Challenge.
Man, yeah. Adult and Teen Challenge, it's a wonderful organization and ministry. So for those who might not be familiar, we went by the name Teen Challenge for a very long time. Because 64 years ago, David Wilkerson saw some kids on trial on TV, and they were 12, 13, 14, and 15 years old, very young. They were wrapped up in a bunch of gang activity, and he felt like he was supposed to go up there and be their advocate, and he felt like they needed a change in their life, and that could be possible through faith. So he went up there, barged into the courtroom, and got himself thrown out of the courtroom because he was interrupting a little bit. But
that's called good trouble.
Oh yeah, and it's funny because him getting thrown out of the courtroom actually helped him earn a reputation among the gangs in New York City as somebody that the establishment didn't particularly like. So it helped people to identify with him, even though he was a pretty clean, young pastor. And through this whole process of trying to help these young teens, essentially, in New York City, figured out that a lot of the root issues come from substance abuse, whether it's drugs or alcohol. And that's kind of where everything blossomed from all the way back in, I believe, 64 years ago now.
Yeah, having been young myself at one time, and it seems like a long time back, some of the things that you guys key on really do make a difference. Another thing, because I've actually been to the facility, is that you encourage people to exercise, which I think for young men is an absolute important activity.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's we try to have a framework that allows for wraparound care, and we don't require physical activity, but we do highly encourage it. They are doing, or I don't know, I want to say they, but there's a number of different colleges and groups that are doing study on the effect of physical activity, whether it's exercise, going for a jog, a hike, even just a simple walk. In order to help treat things like depression, anxiety, and stress in comparison to traditionally used pharmaceutical drugs that are being prescribed. And there's some pretty comparable evidence that it can help a lot, just getting the body moving and kind of forcing yourself into action.
Yeah, I know even at the time when I first started strength training and physical culture, it was a great release for frustration, even when times weren't difficult. Now I think it's almost imperative that people actually get outside and do something as well as, and I think you guys are have a pretty good record with nutrition, which I think also affects us psychologically.
Oh yeah. It's pretty common that many of our students come into the program and they are either severely underweight or severely overweight. And it helps to just kind of get your body back on track and start the healing process physically, which a lot of times starts with food.
Yeah, I think one of the key factors, at least for a lot of young people I've known, is the idea that if you become routine, and I will mention at this time that all animals thrive on routine, and I believe the same is true of humans.
Oh, yeah. One thing that's probably can seem like a bit much in our program is it is inpatient, meaning that they live there, and about almost all of their waking hours are scheduled to some extent. Wake ups at 6 a.m., breakfast is at 6:30. We're going to start a morning class at 7 o'clock. At 8, they're going to start behavioral health counseling. At 11, they're going to have lunch. And then they're going to go on with the rest of their day, whether it's more class or going to work. But a very regimented schedule that a lot of people that are struggling with substance abuse usually don't have in their lives, and having that stability is a massive difference from before.
Yeah, both those things, nutrition and exercise, are anchors, in my opinion, for having a healthy lifestyle. If you're eating well and getting sufficient activity, you're likely to be much happier. So in that 78%, I'm sure that you've had some people that you would like to brag about their capacity and capabilities. Are there people working within the program, literally working within the program, that started out in the program?
Oh, yeah. Right now, our student life coordinator, Andrew, he is a graduate of the program, I believe, 8 years ago now. And he's a success story of the ministry. He went through the program, completely transformed his life, turned things around, and then he started working with youth after finishing the program. He's worked with a couple different organizations. He's worked down in Florida, but now he's came back and working with our team. He's responsible for bringing new students into the program. And because he comes from the background of being a student himself, having struggled with addiction before coming into the program and having that freedom, he is able to relate to them and help walk through the process with them.
Yeah, I think once again, and there was a word that you mentioned in there called ministry, and I think that there's also a spiritual aspect to, kind of coping with what's going on today. And you guys do provide that spiritual existence, correct?
Yes, absolutely. So a lot of times when people talk about Teen Challenge, you'll hear that we are a inpatient drug and alcohol recovery program, which is true. But the it factor, the changing factor, is that we do believe that there is freedom through faith. And that's ultimately going to be one of the things that leads to success. And I think is a big reason why the success rate is 78% for graduates. Yeah,
I think just the idea that you've mentioned, we've talked about a number of three things that are really important. And then there's one other thing, and that's just the idea of being conscious and mentally engaged. And I think for some young people, that's really quite difficult.
Oh, yeah. It's interesting. It's one of the conversations we've been having as a team throughout the Pacific Northwest, and it's how to engage with this new generation. The attention spans are shorter. The interests are different. I mean, there's also been a lack of societal interaction, I think partially due to COVID, but partially due to our connection with technology. So it is hard to capture the attention of people often. So one thing that is nice is we have built-in breaks, usually on the hour, every hour, to help take a little bit of a deep breath, refocus, and head back into the class, which can help to constantly make progress. If we're going to have a class that's 3-4 hours long, whether it's the behavioral health counseling or our curriculum, taking breaks is highly necessary to be able to stay focused.
Well, and I want to mention another thing that I think always occurs in these kind of programs is the fact that a lot of the people that work within the program, like yourself, get quite a bit out of this as well. We're designed to help each other.
Oh yeah. It is fun. And I've been able to create some wonderful friendships out of being a part of this organization, this ministry. It really is a community, and we aren't really meant to isolate ourselves, and maybe we need a weekend trip to get away and take some rest, but ultimately we do thrive in community.
Yeah, it's a cinch that, and I think that conversely, young women tend to communicate with one another more often than young men do. And I think that, having been in a number of gyms over the course of my life, there's always a part that is camaraderie, recognizing that we're all struggling with a lot of the same issues. So, I think anytime you can kind of get everybody to sit down and eat at the same time, look at exercise and really think about consciousness and spirituality, there has to be rewards for the people who work there.
Oh, absolutely. For members of the team as well as the students, a lot of times this is their most intense community or brotherhood or family that you could be a part of, because it's a large group of people that sees each other every day for a very extended period of time. Because even if your staff, 40 hours a week, you're hanging out with the students, and oftentimes that's more time that you're spending with a lot of family members, especially extended family, like maybe cousins and siblings when you're an adult, that you might not live in the same town as. So you'll create environment where you deeply know somebody, whether they're a team member or whether they're a student, in a way that you normally wouldn't have in another organization.
Yeah, sadly, I think in our current cultural structure, we don't really get a chance to listen to each other's inside stories. And a lot of times the inside story is the most important part of living.
Yeah, absolutely. We try to encourage our guys to be careful about we call it war storying, and it's where they might be talking too much about the past lifestyle, unless we're talking about the progress that's been made through that. Of course, in our counseling sessions, we open up with different things that are necessary to make progress through, but we definitely try to focus on, okay, hey, what's some good things that we can build on, instead of focusing always on the bad things of our past. And what are new things that we can look forward to as kind of building ourselves up and kind of creating a new story.
Yeah, that's really what it is imagining where you can be, or at least a direction to get where you want to go. And it's so terribly important in today's world. Why don't we shift gears and we'll talk a little bit about the donors and the thrift store and the fact that you guys don't use any government funding.
Yeah, so because our curriculum is Bible-based, and because we try to aim to give people freedom through faith and through studying the Bible and following Jesus and kind of this discipleship process, we're considered to be faith-saturated. So we don't get direct government funding for our program. And it costs about, I believe it's $3,500 per month per student for us to keep the program going. And we highly scholarship all of our students in. We will ask friends and family to help raise some support, but that's a lot of money to raise. So we never allow finances to be a barrier for people coming into the program. If they don't have the funds, if they're coming in homeless, if they've burned every bridge because they've already been to a couple different recovery programs, we don't allow that to be a barrier of entry and a barrier to stay in the program. So our ways of fundraising is, of course, donors that are helping this place keep going. People can sign up for sponsorship, $45 a month commitment. that they get updates on a student in the program and the progress that they're making. But the other one is our thrift store, which we've recently rebranded to the name Super Thrift. And it is on 3rd Street, right between Rite Aid and Grocery Outlet, kind of heading south on 3rd Street. And it creates an opportunity for the students to learn, we call it vocational training. They can learn customer service, how to work a register, how to sort things, how to work as a team, and how to deal with conflict with people, which are they might seem like basic skills, but for a lot of people that are going through addiction, it isn't something that might be recent in their life or fully developed, especially if their addiction started when they were quite young.
Yeah, I think, as is the case with many other programs, the money that you spend up front, it works out really well because they become, these potentially people that could become more of a drain on our society become more of an asset. And that's really the most important part. I think that one of the things that's occurring in this world is that we lack tolerance of one another. And I think that working with the public definitely will make you tolerant, and it certainly will be challenging.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's fun to get to be a part of the night shifts at the campus when students come home from the day. And a lot of times there'll be some excitement that they want to share something that happened and an interaction. And sometimes it's a super pleasant interaction where they had a chance to help somebody and learn how to be selfless rather than selfish. And that's wonderful. And other times it's, oh man, I had to deal with this person who was being so difficult today. And it's cool to see them grow as they continue through their program. That's
the way it should be.
If you or a loved one struggle with addiction, we do have an intake hotline that you can call, and you can also call our local Bend campus. Our phone number is 541-678-5272. And we can get you connected with either our campus or another campus. If you're, for instance, a woman, we're not a women's campus, we're a men's campus. We can help get you connected to another facility in order to help get that freedom. And we also are getting close to launching Life Renewal, which is our outpatient behavioral health counseling, which is going to still incorporate our faith, which is pretty miraculous that this is a possibility in Central Oregon. I'm very excited about it. It's currently available to our inpatient students, but hasn't been launched to the community yet, but it's going to be available very soon.
Very cool. Well, I want to thank you for being here today, Micah. I also want to applaud you. It's so much better to be proactive than reactive in this world. We need to think ahead, not wait till the problems occur. And you're one of those people that is kind of taking the bull by the horns. And we want to thank you for being with us today and exposing our listeners to this really important program. Thanks once again, Micah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to a KPOV Critical Conversation. To hear more engaging interviews on important topics, please visit kpov.org/criticalconversations.